I'm Barbara Peirson and I'm a painter, and this is my studio. I wake early and first thing I like to come into here, and the first thing I do is squeeze paints out onto a palette and then try and get paint onto the board before I can start thinking. I think the mind is really interesting at that time of day when dreams are still lurking and there's a kind of blur and a blankness, and before there's too much chatter going on, and that the subconscious is just there, just almost out of reach. Or the first thing I do is to go straight out onto the estuary, which is just down the road, and I take the dog out and I get out there early because it's such a beautiful time of day. If I can see dawn rising, that is terribly exciting. And the glorious thing about an estuary and living in Essex is that the skies are huge and the river, when it's full, is really big and it's all sky, and it makes me feel very small, and I like to find a still point where I can watch things coming and going. So the tide comes and goes and the flocks of birds swoop in and out and the mists arise and then they recede. It's a sense of awe and wonder that it gives me, and that's what I really like to capture. I do take a sketchbook and I like to record the shapes of the shoreline or the horizon or the shapes of the people that are there. I don't really record colour. I try and remember that my being there is more to do with feeling and absorbing the atmosphere and trying to bring a memory of those sensations back into the studio. So I paint in acrylics. It's a constant learning journey, finding out how the paint works, how, the different drying times of the different colours, the different viscosity, the different opacity of each paint and each brand of paint, and how the paints react against one another. I find that a really interesting journey. And I like to paint on cardboard. It's my favourite surface really to paint on. And it's because it's unprecious in many ways. It's I practice. This is my sketchbooks really, or bits of cardboard. And then after that, I really like to paint on wood panel or board. The way the paint works against those surfaces is really interesting. I don't usually know what I'm going to paint. Sometimes I do. It depends on the circumstances, but usually I let the paint take the lead. So I bring onto the board, I bring a feeling or an idea or a memory of colour or shape, and I just get going with the paint. And then after a while, it starts to speak to me. So I start to see things in it. It's a bit like seeing shapes in clouds in a way. And I start to take the lead from the painting itself. Colours arrive, shapes arrive, a landscape usually emerges, and then I have to wait and look and wait for the characters to arrive. So it is a bit like setting the scene, and wait for the characters to make their entrance. And they come with their own mood really, which depends on usually the shape of the shoulder or the stance that they're taking, and then I follow them and find out who they are. My background's in theatre. I trained to be an actor. I have worked my whole life in theatre, film and so on, around the world, around the country, and painting has threaded through that, so I've always done that. And the glory of painting is that I can do it whenever I want to do it. With theatre, it's a collaborative art form, and so it takes a long time to set up the conditions for working, to gather all the people together in the room. But with painting, you can just go and get on with it. There's nothing that delays it, really. For me, the process in both art forms is about approaching something with openness, removing one's defences, being curious, and bit by bit experimenting, improvising, going into the unknown. And in a way, it's about getting out of the way so that you allow it, rather than yourself to be the controller of it, you are the conduit. It comes through you, and you're more like a midwife than a creator. Theatre and drama is about the observation of the human being under a set of circumstances and the recreation of the feelings of that. And for me, painting is the same. The same questions run through it, really. You know, what is this business of being human? Who are we? Why are we here? What are we doing? And somehow the smallness and the insignificance of our existence inside the hugeness and the enormity of nature and all of these things that are much bigger than us, really. I think I'm really interested in the fleetingness of our time on Earth and the fleetingness of the present moment, set against the kind of continuance of nature and the repetitive motifs that run through everybody's lives, generation after generation, person after person, all the things that we have in common, and the ephemeral nature of that.